So Alicia and her boyfriend are up on some scaffolding at the high school, and she's like, "Oh man, my cushy middle class lifestyle is so horrible. One more year till I'm out of my parents' house, man." Yeah, honey, you're gonna be singing a different tune in about a week when a walker's eating half your face. Fear the Walking Dead. Hashtag Fear TWD. So the 90-minute pilot episode last night, I went into it with actually pretty low expectations. I thought it was going to be, I mean, to put it mildly, we're talking about people I don't know or care about yet before the zombie apocalypse. So it's just basically like what? Like Grey's Anatomy or something? I didn't know what to expect. So in the beginning, the first third was definitely a little slow. But what really kept me going through it was that opening scene. We see a junkie in some kind of a church, and of course that brings to mind Father Gabriel and that scene in the church. And I couldn't help but think of Morgan, how he came into the church as a little stinger at the end of one episode, and he knew he was hot on Rick's trail. And he's looking for his girlfriend, presumably Gloria. He goes downstairs, sees a dead body, the throat all chewed out, goes in the next room, he sees Gloria eating a man's face. Freaks out, runs out of there. He's running down the street barefoot, gets hit by a car. Police lock him up. Police take him to the hospital, and they restrain him on the bed. And that is how the show begins. That's what drives the action forward, is that initial scene. So the whole episode is around this character, Nick. And is he hallucinating? Did he just have a bad trip? Or is there actually something more going on? Of course, we know the answer. We know that the zombie apocalypse is nigh. The stepfather asks him, "Do you think what you saw was a nightmare or hallucinations?" And he ends up going to the church to see for himself what's going on, and he sees the scene there. He sees blood on the ground. He doesn't see Gloria, and that's one of the central questions from this episode. What happened to Gloria, and who moved the bodies? Is the government cleaning up everything to keep it under wraps? Later on, someone says, if something was really going on, they would tell us. And I said, would they? And I expected the character to say, would they? The answer is no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't want to cause a panic. There's 100 movies like that where the government doesn't want you to know what's going on because they don't want to cause a panic. I can give you just one quick example, Jaws. The beaches will stay open on the 4th of July. There's a really great character moment with the stepfather. He's an English teacher, and he's talking about Jack London to build a fire, and he's trying to teach one of his students about survival. You know, why would he build that fire? And the student says to not die. And that's great foreshadowing for the type of life these people are going to be living, those who do survive. Sort of a fake scare when Madison goes into the principal's office, and there's like kind of that scary music, and he's facing away, and you think he's going to turn around and be a walker, but he's not. We don't need that kind of stuff. The shots of LA, just foreboding what's going to go down. I mean, the city is vibrant, it's bustling. When Nick runs out in the street after seeing Gloria eating someone, you think maybe it's post-apocalypse and this is a flash forward, but it's actually present day. And when people swarm around him with cell phones and there's traffic, it's almost jarring, it's startling. So the main character is Kim Dickens. She's a high school guidance counselor in LA. And there's a great character moment towards the beginning where she's covering for one of her students. And he's coming through the metal detector and he sets it off. And she plays it off like he just has change in his pocket because she knows that the principal will expel him. Because in his pocket he actually has a pretty cheap-looking steak knife. So she cares about him and she's covering for him. And we see that as the episode moves forward. She's very nurturing and she really cares. She cares about her family, she cares about her fiancé, and she cares about her students, which is what you'd expect from a guidance counselor. That's definitely part of the role. It comes with the territory. So she's in a good fit for her job. Her fiancé is Cliff, and he is an English teacher at the school. And I presume that's how they met. I don't think that they explicitly say that, but it's pretty obvious they work at the same school, so they would have met there. And Frank Delane actually plays their son. And I'm looking at him, and he seems familiar, and I feel like it was just the Walter White kind of jacket he's wearing towards the end. But he actually played a very young Tom Riddle in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. He's the one who was sitting on the bed when Dumbledore came to that orphanage, and he sets the cabinet on fire. So I don't think I recognized him from that, but he definitely reminds me of something. He has He has sort of a special quality about him, this actor, and there's something compelling about him. Watching him throughout the episode struggle with what he thinks he saw, and he feels like he's either insane or, he just, the heroin he took was laced, he's afraid of that. Seeing him struggle with that when we know that he's right and he did see what he saw was really well done. And that moment of realization at the end, when right in front of, I got to look at the names, Kim and Cliff, his mother and future father or stepfather, they see, what was his name? Cal, I think, the drug dealer, actually stand up. So all of this makes me think Madison versus Rick. Those are our two strong protagonists. What The Walking Dead showed us is that the real danger is ourselves. It's people. It's not The Walking Dead. The real danger is people, and the danger always comes from inside. It comes from inside the group. It comes from inside the prison. It comes from inside the farm. And in this season coming up, obviously we've already seen it coming from inside Alexandria. But while Rick is perhaps too far gone, and of course the cliffhanger, which will be resolved in 6 weeks, on October 11th, when Rick basically shoots someone in the face and takes control of the group, just as Morgan walks in, who's the new Zen master of calm, who values all life. And they finally see each other for the first time since Clear, a few seasons back. We have to wonder if at the beginning of this apocalypse, will Madison take a different route? Will she emerge as the strong leader of the survivors by the end of this 6-episode miniseries? Or will she go down the same road? Will she have to become a product of her surroundings, and she'll have to become just as brutal as Rick has, and just as justifiably, violent at times as Rick has? The central question, I think, of The Walking Dead is, are you ever too far gone? Second act picked up steam, sort of a mystery, but we already know the answer, so was it that compelling? But the third act absolutely made up for it. When they're watching the video on the smartphones of the attack, it's got to be fake. Is this real? It was really, really compelling. And even though we know the end, and we know more about this world than our characters do, the fun in the show is watching them discover it. So I'm looking forward to the 6-episode miniseries very much. It's too bad that for next week the production's moved to Vancouver from LA, because the cinematography in LA was great on the highway. So the basic rest of the story is Nick breaks out of the hospital, meets up with his drug dealer, wants to know if the stuff that he took was laced or what the deal was. And Cal is the drug dealer. He immediately realizes that Nick's a liability. So he takes him out to some abandoned tunnel out by the train tracks, and he's going to kill him. But Nick grabs the gun and shoots him first. He goes and meets up with his mom and his, I guess we call him his future stepfather. And they don't believe him that Cal's dead. They think he's hallucinating again. So when they go to see the body, it was obvious. I'm sure you all called it as well, but I said, car's there, body's not. And it's a great scene when the realization of what's really happening dawns on them after all this foreboding, all this foreshadowing. The whole episode, we're hearing sirens, we're seeing helicopters, we're getting little bits of news reports. Alicia's in school with her friends. They're on their smartphone watching this footage of this guy who went nuts on a highway overpass. And it's all adding up to something's wrong. It gives you this uneasy feeling. And the way that it slowly builds the suspense and the dread through the 90 minutes, I thought was really well done. Like I said at the beginning, I went into it with pretty low expectations. And I was very much impressed. I will be watching all 6 episodes. And I'm glad it's a short run, too. It's more manageable to watch and to review. I like that. I think it also gives the showrunners a chance to tighten up the story a little bit and make sure every episode counts. So the one thing I can say about it is that with The Walking Dead, you're always hoping they move the story forward. You hope you find out what happens at the end. Can they cure this disease? Can they cure this outbreak? Are they going to make it to DC? You look at a red herring like Eugene and you think you're going to move it forward, but they end up just kind of circling around Atlanta, just walking around in the woods of Georgia. In this show, obviously it starts at the beginning, and the fun is seeing how they get there. And about, I want to say, 2,100 miles away, there's a sheriff named Rick Grimes who's in a coma, and he's got a hell of a journey ahead of him. So the questions for next week. How will Alicia react when she finds out what's going on? Because so far, at the end of episode 1, she's in the dark. What happened to her boyfriend? Why isn't he answering the texts? Was he turned, or did he run away? We have no idea what happened to him. Will Madison step up as a Rick-like leader? Is she going to go down the same path as Rick Grimes? Will their stories be parallel, or will she go in her complete different direction and she'll regain her humanity? And she'll take more of a page from Morgan's book, maybe find a balance between the two, the yin and the yang of Morgan and Rick. Will we get a cameo by Daryl? Now, who sent that question in? Come on. That would be awesome, though. Maybe he was on vacation in LA at the beginning. Will we ever care about Cliff's put-upon family, his wife and his whiny son, Christopher? So far, I don't care. I don't even think they should have used them. My thought would have been to just have that whole thing happen via phone call. You just hear him on the phone arguing with someone. You assume it's his ex-wife. He says something about his son, and that's the end. And if we meet up with them, great. And if we don't, then so be it. I didn't think we needed to see them and devote even the limited screen time that they did to those two characters, because they, obviously in one episode you can't flesh out 10 characters, but I thought that it was just wasted time this week. To that point, will they factor into the main plot? Do we see them again? Are they just simply an impetus for Cliff to react differently and to give him something else to do than be a shoulder for Madison to kind of lean on? I also feel like the preview kind of gave too much away. We know that, obviously we already knew all hell breaks loose, but we know that martial law is imposed and they are sequestered into some kind of a community, and then just like Alexandria so far, but I was going to say Woodbury, we know how these small sequestered communities work out. There's always someone who takes it too far with a lust for power and it crumbles from the inside. Advice for season 2, do not stretch it out too thin. Learn the lesson from The Walking Dead and the criticisms on its pacing. First 5 minutes, exciting zombie action. 45 minutes of people sitting around a barn. Cliffhanger ending. It's done too many times. It's been overdone. Learn lessons from that pacing. I know The Walking Dead's tried to correct it, but let's not repeat that mistake. And to that point, let's not stretch the season out too long. I hear the second season order is 15 episodes. Might be too many. I like the 6 episode miniseries that worked for Agent Carter. So is 15 episodes too many? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And we will see you next week for So Close, Yet So Far. Thanks again for watching.